Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and let's take a look at the future of Final Fantasy XIV. With the release of Dawntrail, it has proven to be quite controversial, with people either loving it, liking it, or just flat out hating it. But there's also been components to it that people have really loved on the whole and been extremely receptive to, such as the fight design, the dungeons, the trials, and especially the Arcadian raid. So I want to take a bit, just an opportunity if you will, to take a step back and explain why I'm extremely optimistic not only for the patches of Dawntrail, but for the future of Final Fantasy XIV. At the end of the day, I love Final Fantasy XIV. And while I have been extremely critical of the MSQ of Dawntrail, I would still say that on the whole I like it and enjoy it. Especially when it comes to a lot of internet discourse. Especially for games, people can really become entrenched in binary ways of thinking. You either have to love something or you have to hate it, and if you change your mind or have an opinion that falls somewhere in the middle, you're wishy-washy, a hypocrite, or whatever. The way I view it is I love Final Fantasy XIV, so when I think it's underperforming or well, I guess just that, underperforming to what I expect out of it, I'm going to call it out because I want to see this game be the best version of itself consistently. But there are quite a few moments in not only the MSQ, but especially the combat content, as well as the Arcadian, that gives me a lot of hope and optimism for the future. Like, let's not forget that the story for Stormblood 0.0 is not the most well-received story they've ever done. Now, I like it, don't get me wrong, but it's not my favorite either. But you want to know what some of my favorite story content they've ever done is? The Stormblood patches. And I think this goes to show just how quickly, like seemingly on a dime, that Final Fantasy XIV can course correct, or just pivot in its overall tone, vibe, and writing style. And I think we saw that even with 7.0. The first half of the story with the Rite of Succession feels very different to the back half with Alexandria, let alone what we got in the Arcadian raids. The ability to craft engaging story content and have good world building. That's not suddenly a lost art because there was some boring parts of 0.0. And we even go back to a previous discussion I had about Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail where I believe, and I still do, that 0.0 was a test. In a lot of ways, not just overall topics and what people find interesting, but the way a story is conveyed, the way themes are woven into the story. I'll leave a link to that one in the description down below. And we have also seen the team behind Final Fantasy XIV take feedback to heart, and they do this rather regularly. They may not always agree with every little tidbit that every individual community member says, but on the whole, if there's like sweeping criticisms, they tend to take it to heart. We've seen this back in Bosnia, we've seen this before. Heck, we've arguably even seen it back in that Stormblood era that I talked about, where 0.0 wasn't the most well-received thing ever, but then the patches come out absolutely swinging. And let's also not mince words. Final Fantasy XIV may be a story-focused game, but there's also a lot of combat, and the bulk of what you're going to do at endgame, let alone, is going to be combat-oriented, and the dungeons, trials, and raids so far have been absolutely stellar, and we haven't even gotten the Alliance raid yet, let alone the new Bosnia content. Most of the actual endgame for Dawntrail is not even in the freaking game yet. And if what was here, gameplay-wise in 0.0 is any indication, I still hold to my opinion that I held pre-release of Dawntrail, that Dawntrail very well may end up having the most engaging endgame Final Fantasy XIV has ever seen. I want to take my hand at cosmic exploration. I haven't even touched the crafting and gathering stuff yet, and we know the new field operation, which is the Bosnia-esque content, is going to take place in basically Final Fantasy XIV's version of the Bermuda Triangle. That just screams of adventure. And if you're going to give me Bosnia content with Dawntrail enemy design, I'm all in, baby. You don't need to sell it on, to me at least, I'm all in. And it's not like there weren't any good stories in Dawntrail. I feel this is also a part where a lot of people fall into this binary way of conversing and discussing any topic in video games. I think Dawntrail had massive systemic issues, but there were also bright points to it. The stuff with Alexandria was really cool. And I want to reiterate a point I've been having since the Arcadian came out. I think it's a genuinely great raid story. Not even just in comparison to Dawntrail. I believe that the Arcadian, at least in terms of the tier 1 story, is arguably the best beginning to a raid they've ever done. There's various characters that I actually want to really learn more about. The stakes aren't all too too high, but there's still stakes there, and they're interesting as well. It's doing great world building for Solution 9, and setting the stage for a really cool and compelling narrative to unfurl over the next couple of tiers. It is genuinely great, and if that type of storytelling can carry itself over into the patches of Dawntrail for the MSQ, then I'm completely on board with that. Like, that would be great, because when it comes to the MSQ, we're kind of at a proverbial fork in the road. With the way Dawntrail wrapped itself up, and I probably put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this video, but spoilers again, they can really go anywhere here. Dawntrail's .0 story wrapped itself up quite nicely, and the whole Sphene Crown thing can go anywhere, honestly. The MSQ patches could focus in on Yoctoral, it could focus on Injoctoral, could be largely focused on Solution 9, or heck, maybe we even go away from that, go back to Sharlayan for a bit, or whatever. Like, who knows? This could go anywhere. Heck, there's a piece of endgame content coming down the line called Cosmic Exploration. Nobody has any, real solid idea as to where this story is going to go, or let alone where 8.0 could be. It could be different parts of the new world. We could be going to Meracedia. Everything is up in the air because Dawntrail's .0 story, including the Arcadian, had so many different tones and feels to it, and left a lot of little loose, threads that the story can pick up going into the future that are really interesting and compelling. And if there's one thing the team at Final Fantasy XIV are extremely good at, that is making you care about something surprisingly quickly. Again, Meteor wasn't introduced until the level 87 in the entire experience, and she's one of my favorite villains ever. I thought Yotsuya was okay when it came to the .0 story of Stormblood, because she was just kind of, I'm the evil ruler, haha, hee hee hee, right here. And then in the patches, she becomes an extremely compelling character. And then they weave in the ways we go to Shadowbringers in brilliant form. And for a game I've enjoyed so much and still enjoy so much, I'm always going to err on the side of optimism rather than pessimism, because even when they stumble or implement a story that I'm not personally that big on, I still like it, but there's still a bunch of other things in the experience that I can latch onto and really enjoy. They haven't eroded my trust or confidence, because again, at the end of the day, I think Dawntrail is largely a test, and I think they're going to take that feedback into account. Especially in modern gaming discourse, it can be so easy to get wrapped up in negativity and pessimism, especially with the way that a lot of games and series end up going nowadays, to where over the years you can just see the goodwill that these series and developers have built up over the years just fade away into obscurity, or just erode into something nearly unrecognizable to what it used to be. But I'm not willing to act that way to Final Fantasy XIV yet. After one minor hiccup, no, absolutely not. I think that's a wild overreaction. Why would I put my own self into a headspace to where I would more easily, pessimistically experience the future of Final Fantasy XIV rather than go into it looking for the good parts and relishing in those parts instead of just the bad? If the bad happens, we can call it out when it happens, but God dang it, drop my... if the bad happens, we can call it out then, but I'm not willing to try and paint Final Fantasy XIV as this, fall-off story or whatever. I think that's absolutely moronic. And it's also just not doing anyone any favors or any good. Constructive feedback and criticism is of paramount importance. But again, not everything is binary. Not everything is black and white. And I don't think it's fair to call the entirety of the .0 MSQ bad. I just don't think that's the case. It's not like the second coming of Shadowbringers or anything, but there's quite a few bright spots there, especially in the second half. And if the patches come out and they equally dull as the first half of the MSQ, at least it was to me, but then yeah, we can address that when it happens. But when we are at this proverbial fork in the road where they showed us they can equally write a boring, repetitive story, but also really compelling one, I'm gonna err on the side that they do it right in the future, or at least go in a better direction in the future. I'd rather be hopeful and optimistic than just wallow away in pessimism and just hate everything. I'd rather enjoy the game. I love the game. It's as simple as that. If I go into a piece of content expecting it to be bad, I'll likely, consciously or subconsciously, just pick out the bad things and elevate them in terms of their severity or importance, whereas if I had gone into it looking for the good and wanting to be entertained, I may find little things that I can really enjoy and take pleasure in that I would have disregarded or simply ignored before. And I don't know about you, but personally, I would rather enjoy something, even if it's for a dumb reason, than just be a gloomy dickhead all the time. I'm already a dickhead, I just don't want to be a gloomy one, you know? But with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe. Have a great day. Leave a comment down below with what you are looking forward to the most in the future for Final Fantasy XIV. More Arcadian? Are you really excited for the Alliance Raid, Cosmic Exploration, Bermuda Triangle Boss Joe? What are you looking forward to? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions. And or, also a good one, what plot thread do you really hope that they address in the future for Final Fantasy XIV's Fiend's Crown, something to do with Solution 9, Walkthroughs? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!